Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of our rant series. Today, you've asked for it, you got it. Together on the same show, Chris Alo, Martin Popoff, and myself for another fun rant. Today, it's all about those classic live albums that we couldn't wait to get, and then when we did, we were pretty disappointed by them. So I've asked all of us to pick out 3 live albums that just, for whatever reason, never really did it for us for one reason or another, or just really disappointed us. We expected more, or whatever the reason. So I'm going to have Mr. Alo, since he's sitting at the top here. We're going to have Martin go. We're going to have Chris go. Then Martin and myself will go around till we each cover the 3. So Chris, kick it off.
Okay. Awesome. All right. I'll start off. I know Martin's certainly the Rush expert than I am, but I do consider myself a pretty big Rush fan. And I was really disappointed. I mean, it's a great record and a terrible record at the same time. Rush Exit Stage Left. I was, put it up. Yeah. I love the performances. I love that era of the band. Moving Pictures is my all-time favorite Rush album. I just hate how it's all the tracks fade in and out, and it's obvious when you play it that it's not a full live album, that there's material from that tour missing. And when I play a live album, I want to feel like I'm at the concert seeing that band on that tour. And another thing that really disappointed me as a kid is I would always see the live video of Limelight from Exit Stage Left, the concert video. So then, as a kid, I went out and I get the cassette of Exit Stage Left, and I always liked that Mercury, the backs, the little bottom of the case, they were cream colored instead of black like every other one. And Limelight's not on there. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's like the huge song. Like, why would you do that? And then one of the other things that sucks, once I got the video, it's got this awesome medley of, I think it's By Tour and the Snow Dog, In the End, In the Mood, and I think Grand Finale. And that's not on the album. So, and I get what they didn't want to, reproduce anything that was already on All the World's a Stage. But so that's why it's a great album, but I think it's a terrible album at the same time. And Rush has re-released like everything now. How come they didn't re-release this with the extra stuff? And as a bonus, I don't want to take up too much time, this album totally blows. I hate this era of Rush. It's like Rush totally neutered and ballless with the synthesizers and keyboards. It's just terrible. This is like the equivalent of a pretty wife that has to screw her old fat husband. That's why I bought this album, because I had to do it because I'm a Rush fan, but it's terrible. I never listened to it, and that's my number 3 pick.
Okay.
Nothing like kicking us off with a bang, huh, Chris? All right, Martin, what do you got, Martin?
Okay, so I went with Priest Live. Priest ... live. There we go, exclamation. I love this band, of course. I've got 2 Priest books. There we go. But basically, I consider this one of those records, just like Chris's pick, where the second one is always a disappointment. It's never as exciting as that first live album. Now, Priest Live, it has a terrible album cover, but it is a double. Unleashed in the East was a single album, but it's just a barnstormer, an amazing, amazing record, Unleashed in the East, right? But this fits in that category and that dynamic of like Louis Chakalt Extraterrestrial Live over On Your Feet or On Your Knees, Thin Lizzy Life Live over Live and Dangerous, Worldwide Live over Tokyo Tapes. There's always this second one that's basically the corporate bloated one. And in Priest's case, so this is when Priest is kind of no longer hungry. They're out there on the Turbo Tour. They're playing all these big hockey barns, so it sounds corporate and bloated. One nice thing they did on it, of course, is that all the songs, there is no overlap with the 70s live album in the 70s at all. But that means we do get Out in the Cold's not a bad song, but it's a 7-minute version. We've got Private Property is on here. Nobody wants to hear that at all. No one wants to hear Rock You All Around the World at all. Side 4 has a 7-minute, 23 seconds, Living After Midnight, and an 8 minutes, You've Got Another Thing Coming, which I don't even like very much. I don't even think that's one of their great songs. So yeah, basically this is the Chris, this is the equivalent of your choice, essentially.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, Martin, the VHS of Priest Live does have different tracks that's not on the album, if I remember right.
I believe so. I don't quite remember because I really didn't care about the live videos, and I rarely even cared about the live albums. And people who know me, I'm famously cranky when it comes to even live shows. I don't even care, right? I mean, concerts, don't get me started on concerts. I just find so much wrong with them. But essentially live albums, I really don't care. I mean, one nice thing about this is even though it is corporate and bloated, when I go back and play the studio albums of Screamin' or especially Defenders, the production is so horrendous to me now that I actually prefer these live versions. There's a little more humanity to these songs. So there you go, Priest Live.
Cool. All right, so talk about like following up a really good first live album with the second album that really disappoints. Intensities and 10 Cities by Ted Nugent. I mean, give him credit for one thing, right? So he puts out a live album with songs that never appeared on a studio album. It's all new stuff. But man, the greatness that is Double Live Gonzo moving to this. Granted, the guitar solo and the guitar playing is really damn good. But, you know, you got songs like My Love Is Like a Tire Iron, Jailbait, I Am a Predator, The Flying Lip Lock, you know, Land of a Thousand Dances, Put Up or Shut Up. The songs are so juvenile and just the lyrics are just god awful. And quite frankly, has any of these songs ever like made a lasting impression on Ted Nugent's career going forward? Right? It's almost like, you know, let's put out this cheesy, quick live album with all these new songs that nobody cares about and probably the band didn't even care about. And you never heard of any of this stuff ever again. I mean, there's people who love this album. I get it. And like I said, it's got a lot of fire. It's pretty raunchy and all that, but utterly forgettable in my opinion. Other than a great
title. I love that title.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, and the album's cool looking, you know, I got the front and the back, but it's like, but I remember like getting this and I was like, okay. And all the songs are fairly short and it's just really, really silly lyrics. And just, I mean, you know, granted, Nugent's not known for coming up with the greatest lyrics in all of rock and roll, but I don't know. Most of us were expecting a hell of a lot more here and we didn't get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Back to you, Chris.
All right. This one really disappointed me as a kid. It's not great now, but as a kid, I got the vinyl, which I couldn't find, unfortunately, of Black Sabbath Live at Last, and it sounds shitty. You know, there's tons of feedback and warts. It just sounds really warbly at times. It's got the 20-minute version of Wicked World, which I absolutely fucking hate, where when the band jams and they're doing solos and just goofing off. Why Sabbath did it. They didn't do it that much. I guess they were trying to be like Purple and Zeppelin. You know, Pete, I hate the jam thing. If the song's 4 minutes, play the damn song for 4 minutes. I mean, I'm glad it's out there as a document. And I've bought it like 5 or 6 times now because I have the album, the cassette, then I bought the CD, then the remastered CD. Of course, Sharon Osbourne re-released it as Past Lives, which I did compare the two. And sonically, I can't tell the difference. It doesn't sound like it was remastered or remixed or anything. So, yeah, it's just a disappointing live record. I'm glad it's there as a fan, but I never listened to it. I remember as a kid, you know, coming off of Live Evil and Speak of the Devil, and then I heard this, and I'm like, this sucks. So it's just, you know, it sounds like a bootleg because it kind of sort of is.
Yeah, they just like threw that out there. Remember, all of a sudden you saw that sitting in the import rack one day. We're like,
well, it's true. It is sort of like a bootleg because it's semi-authorized, right? This is the big Patrick Meehan, Nems, you know, the big fight with Sabbath. It's coming out. I think that's coming out right after Sabotage or right around the same time. So the band didn't really want it out. I mean, it really wasn't done properly as a live album. It's just one of those things that's put out, you know, while this battle's going on with management.
Right.
I will say as a live document, though, Past Lives kind of works for me. I mean, that's pretty damn good, you know, because they got all the extra stuff on there, the other show.
Stuff on Past Lives definitely makes it worth the purchase. And if you don't have Live at Last, then just try this version because it has Live at Last and the other stuff on here is great. Hand of Doom, Whole of Sky, Simply Universe. I mean that makes it makes you wonder though. Like when I was listening to it again, I was like, well, why even bother? Why did Sharon even bother making disc 1 like Live at Last? Just like, isn't there more stuff that you could use?
You would think, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? All right, Martin, back to you.
Okay, my next choice is Rainbow on Stage. And again, I do love this band. There's my Rainbow book. Basically, yeah, there we go. So when this thing came out, obviously the big excitement point for anybody on this record was getting Kill the King, getting this advanced live version of this, Barnstormer track that's going to show up on Long Live Rock and Roll. But they're putting out this record only two studio albums in, and massive disappointment. It's literally probably, the biggest one of these where, I get fed up, just like you, Chris, with the idea of the jamminess, right? So this is different than the Priest situation that I just sort of outlined. I mean, this is basically, so you get Over the Rainbow, which is really kind of creepy and cool, leading into Kill the King. You've got a medley on there, which is okay. But side 2, Catch the Rainbow, 15 minutes and 40 seconds. Don't want to hear that at all at any length. Mistreated, side 3, only Mistreated, 13 minutes and 4 seconds. Don't want to hear that at any length. Not a Rainbow song, not a fast Deep Purple song. It's a boring, badly underwritten blues song. Side 4, 16th Century Greensleeves at 7:35, tolerable. Still I'm Sad, instrumental at 11:05. Basically an adaptation of an old Yardbirds thing. So they just wasted this whole thing. And I remember I had a funny exchange with Richie Blackmore once in an interview where we were talking, and I must have said, because I was probably scared, thinking I don't want him to think I think this, but I said, I prefer songs with lyrics, and he goes to me, imagine that, not liking instrumental music, and he had a point, right? Music means music. Music means instrumental, right? But so the whole thing here is that basically, it's the idea of when people love live shows and have a magic moment at a live show, it is music being created spontaneously. And, there is something to be said for everything being way different than the studio albums. I certainly don't want that. I don't want these massive long versions. But if you want to go hear Richie Blackmore play guitar and play something brand new for you on the spot, that's kind of what you get on Rainbow on Stage or seeing them live. It's a little bit of the Grateful Dead thing. You want to be just taken by the music and taken to a new place. So there's a lot to be said. I understand when people like these kinds of records, but I hate these kinds of records. I don't want to hear a whole bunch of soloing by anybody, or God forbid the bass solo or the drum solo, right? It's even worse, right? But yeah, terrible song choices, a lot of mellowness and instrumental, just a few, fast, sharp, shocking rockers, barely even that really, and just 4 wasted sides, I think, of vinyl.
I couldn't agree more, Martin. I hate all that jamming stuff. I mean, Rainbow on Stage, Made in Japan, for my throw them all in the garbage. I can't stand them.
Well, I don't agree with you guys, but I see some of the points, right? For me, I would have left Mistreated out. I dig Mistreated, but that's a Deep Purple song. It doesn't need to be on here. They have a hell of a lot more material they could have thrown on here. Kill the King, I think, is brilliant on here. Man on a Silver Mountain kicks ass. Catch the Rainbow, yeah, it's a little too long, but Blackmore solo is amazing. Still I'm Sad, 11 minutes. Do we need to go there? I don't know. I dig this album, but I agree. I think they could have picked better song type choices here. I just think this could have been compacted a little bit better. Maybe the songs are a little too long, but I dig it, and it's as it is. I like it, but I see your points. All right, I'm gonna. What's that?
I was gonna say it is interesting that Blackmore got out of that phase. Where I guess when he got Grant Bonnet. And then, continued on with Joe Lynn Turner, and then the reformed Purple, they never did that stuff anymore.
No.
Yeah.
You have to wonder, maybe he got it all out of his system on this album right here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And even Final Vinyl, I made some notes on Final Vinyl. There we get Spotlight Kid at 5 minutes, I Surrender, Mistreated at 3:21, which is nice. Jealous Lover, Can't Happen Here. Maybe some of this is mixed in with the studio stuff. Tearing Out My Heart. Difficult to Carry does, so that's instrumental at 11:15. But Stone Cold, 4:30, Power, 4:22. So basically,
Right, yeah.
Final Vinyl is the the compact Rainbow Live album.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, it's almost like the end of the 70s. Richie was like, all right, enough of that. And that's basically how everybody followed suit, right? So.
Exactly. And Zeppelin did it too, right? And their 1980 European tour, they decided to stop doing the 20-minute versions of Whole Lot of Love and whatever, and make it concise.
Yeah. All right. I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people with this choice, and that's okay. I'm going to go with Speak of the Devil. And I'll tell you why. When this album first came out, huge Black Sabbath fan, big Ozzy fan. I thought it was rather odd that this album came out right about the same time as Live Evil. It's almost like they're trying to see, all right, who's going to sell more, right? But what I thought was weird about this album is that, Randy passed away not long before. They had the opportunity to go and they did it later on. They did the tribute album later on, but they had an opportunity to go put out a live album featuring all the best songs from the first two albums. Obviously got Brad Gillis on board. And instead, they went and put together this quick live album of all Black Sabbath covers at the same time that Sabbath is releasing Live Evil. And don't get me wrong, I think Brad Gillis sounds amazing on this album, but quite frankly, I don't want to hear whammy bar, shred guitar stuff in Black Sabbath with Black Sabbath classics. To me, when this album came out, I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. And I've softened my stance on it as time has gone on. I like it for what it is, more as like a really good Brad Gillis performance. But as renditions of Black Sabbath songs, I just think it's too far removed from the way these songs are supposed to sound. And it's almost like this was Ozzy's and maybe Sharon's and maybe her father's F you to Sabbath. Here, we're going to throw this out there. And that's that. So I don't know. I rarely listen to this. I can appreciate for what it is. I know a lot of people love this album, and I love Gillis's guitar work on it, but this is not the way I want to hear these songs.
I love it. I think the performances are smoking. I love the production on it. I just think they're just grooving up a storm on it. I think they did a really good job. But I also don't listen to it very much. And, it really is neck and neck with Live Evil for me. I thought Live Evil was a pretty cool album too, but what a different sort of approach to the band, right? The big massive, and Ozzy's more like the barroom, electric dynamite version performance of these songs. And Black Sabbath's more like the juggernaut, the tank rolling through the desert version of these songs.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I understand why a lot of people love it. For me, being the Sabbath traditionalist, this was really jarring for me. And at the time, being whatever, 17 years old or whatever it was back at the time, I was kind of like, this kind of, to me, it was like a little slap in the face. It's like, but, I've softened my stance on it. I appreciate it for what it is, but it's still, I think they could have done something a little bit different. They could have still done a double live album with some Sabbath covers and also playing a lot of the Diary and Blizzard of Oz stuff. They didn't go that route, which I thought was a strange choice, but whatever.
I'm with you, Pete. I like everything about it until you get to the solos, and then I'm just rolling my eyes, and I'm like, well, why is it okay for Brad Gillis to just do whatever he wants when it comes to the solo? I never got that.
Yeah. Whatever. Great solos, though. Just not great in these classic Sabbath songs for me, anyway. So
no doubt. And not to keep going back to the VHS stuff, but even as a kid, okay, so the VHS of Speak of the Devil is, which was also an MTV concert, is totally different from Speak of the Devil, the album, because the VHS and MTV concert was the Diary of a Madman tour, and the Speak of the Devil, album is all the Sabbath stuff.
Yeah. So, and what pissed me even more is that this sold way more than Live Evil. And I was like, ah.
Yeah. True.
It's like, no. It's like, what? It's not good.
And what's the shitty album cover? Ozzy chewing jelly?
Oh, what? Yeah. It's awful. Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. But, at the time, people loved it because Ozzy was this controversial figure. And,
True.
And looking back on it now, it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Plus, there were the runes all around the thing that you decoded, right? I remember breaking that code. I can't remember if I actually needed something to break it with, or it was just like lining up, repeated letters or whatever. But yeah, that whole thing makes a message. Those runes.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, Chris, what do you got?
My last one, I couldn't find it, the actual vinyl, but it's Venom official bootleg, which in 84, Venom played. They headlined Hammersmith Odeon, and they did this amazing live show. They're sloppy as hell, and they're not good musicians, but they blew up more stuff than I'd ever seen as a kid, more than Kiss, and it was crazy because it was Venom, so everything was over the top. And I got the VHS as a kid, and I loved it. I watched it so many times. I mean, they're blowing stuff up, upside down cross basses, and wrecking their instruments and lasers, and an awesome Venom set list. And then '86, there was I saw a live album pop up from Venom that was Venom. It was called Venom Official Bootleg. It had the wolf, a wolf on the cover with a one-eyed wolf, and there was no info on it. Just no track listing, no info on the back. I had to, babysit and cut lawns to save up the money. I buy the record, and I bring it home, and it's the audio from the VHS, but it's a really shitty version of the audio on the VHS. It was like somebody played the VHS in a school gymnasium through a mono speaker and recorded it, on a handheld tape recorder, and that's the record. I mean, it sounds terrible. I mean, the band is sloppy as hell to begin with, but when you watch it on TV and they're blowing up stuff like crazy, you can kind of forget that Abaddon can't keep time with the rest of the band. But to have the audio of it, it just sucks. And what's worse is, in the '80s they had to cut down on for whatever reason, on the songs. So they played a 90-minute show, but the VHS was only 60 minutes. And they did the same thing to the live album. It's the same exact tracks as the VHS. So they didn't even give you, a version of something that they didn't put on the video. So if you want to see the video, it was released in 2005 or 2006 on this version of Black Metal as a double disc, and it has the DVD of the full concert. The concert's still great. I mean, the band is sloppy as hell, but they blow up so much stuff. But yeah, do not buy official bootleg, which I saw going on Amazon for $99.99. I was like, oof, that hopefully nobody ever pays that. So, yes, steer clear of that.
Stay away. Yeah. All right, Martin, what do you got?
Yeah, just one thing. I remember Mantis told me once, and it's in some of my books somewhere, but I mean, this whole idea about when he tuned his guitars, he tuned it to Kiss albums playing on a turntable, because that's what that he would learn to. He'd play to the Kiss album. So when Venom sounds out of tune, it's because he's tuned to a Kiss albums playing on a turntable. So anyways, okay. So my last one, I went with Led Zeppelin's Song Remains the Same, right? I mean, everybody pretty much was disappointed with this album when it came out. I mean, imagine you're waiting for a Led Zeppelin live album after what? This is after Physical Graffiti, right? Yeah, this is before Presence. And, essentially, there was the whole thing with the movie. No one liked the movie either. The movie was just kind of like a badly thrown together concert, like a cheap video almost, right? So nobody liked the movie. Nobody liked the live album. Wasn't particularly crazy about the album cover either. But essentially, what we get here is side one is great. It's Rock and Roll Celebration Day. Song Remains the Same. The Rain song. 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes. Side two, Things Fall Apart Like the Rainbow. We get Dazed and Confused at 26 minutes and 53 seconds. That song is a slow, drag, boring, going downhill sort of sound anyways, right? And plus, it's kind of a lift, right? Anyways. Get to side three, you've got No Quarter at 12:30, Stairway to Heaven at 10:58. I get a lot of heck for saying this, but I don't like Stairway to Heaven. I never thought it was that good a song. I think the lyric is great, but I think the acoustic part is one of their boring acoustic parts, and the heavy part is one of their boring heavy parts. So I really don't even like Stairway to Heaven. Never did. It's literally my least favorite song on Led Zeppelin IV. You get to side 4, you get Moby Dick, which is the indulgent John Bonham thing. You know, it's not even that indulgent on it. Well, I guess this version is. But the worst thing is it's an instrumental. And then you get Whole Lotta Love at 14 minutes, 24 seconds. So lots and lots of that jammy stuff going on. And again, you know, do we come to this band? I mean, it's a 4-piece band. There's a lot of firepower there. But Jimmy on his own is not even as exciting as Richie on his own, right? So so I don't know what you want to hear here, really, right? I mean, it's just these long, boring, epic songs that are even dragged out even longer. So again, this is a situation where I would have loved to have heard more songs and shorter songs. The 2007 reissue adds Black Dog, Over the Hills and Far Away, great song. Misty Mountain Hop, great song. Since I've Been Loving You, I don't like, and it's long here too. It's 8:23, but it adds The Ocean and it adds Heartbreaker. So it adds all these great short snappers, you know, good heavy songs. It's much better in this reissue situation. But yeah, same sort of thing. Just that long, you know, instrumental passages. I don't want to hear. And you know, Pete, when you said, you know, I hear you, I hear your arguments. I'm thinking back, I don't even have any arguments for really liking, you know, the short songs. I mean, a lot of people say, well, we'll come back to you and say, well, if you want to just hear the songs like that, why don't you just go home and listen to the studio record, right? It's like, I don't even have a good argument for wanting to hear you know, all the versions short. I just do. I just find it boring otherwise, but I have no real defense of that.
Yeah. No, and the funny thing is like all we're talking about here with the Zeppelin album, that's what they were all about, right? Live. I mean, they did throughout their career for the most part. I will say, I've always been kind of hit or miss with that album. I totally like How the West Was Won much better as a live album. Maybe just because better song choices. I don't know. But I think like with the reissue, I think the Since I've Been Loving You is probably the definitive version of that. I absolutely love No Quarter on the live album, but I agree. It's like Dazed and Confused, way too long, even though some of the kind of Ebo stuff he's doing is kind of cool. And when you're watching the movie, you know, especially like if you watched it back when they first released it, you know, kind of interesting to see it at a midnight theater or whatever, after you've been enjoying yourself for a couple hours beforehand, you go to the theater, right? But yeah, a little bit overblown, but I think some good performances on it. But what's funny is like, I mean, they took forever to put that thing together. I mean, that whole concert film and live album was like in the works for like what, 2-3 years. I mean, it took them to finally piece that all together and release it. So Lord only knows how many overdubs and things went on during the recording of that. I don't know, but
and
yeah.
the movie's not even actually, only some of it's live because they had to shoot. They shot the garden and then they shot the band in an airplane hangar in England, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah, which goes to show you, yeah, it's like how bad was some of the footage from the Garden show, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and they couldn't get really good close-ups, so they had to have them all wear the same clothes and play the same set. Just a mess. And 28 minutes? I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I can only imagine like being a Zeppelin fan in the 70s and getting it back then. I'm like, 20 minutes, I could watch a whole episode of Happy Days in that time.
You know, the awesome thing with Zeppelin would be like when I think of Zeppelin live, I know there's this version, I think it might be on How the West Was Won, but there's this version of Immigrant Song, whereas there's just this crazy geometric slide rule stuff going on between John Bonham and John Paul Jones. Like, I think the great Led Zeppelin live album is still to be made and come out. And I want to see someone like a Dave Lewis, a total Led Zeppelin expert, find those absolutely most magical instrumental moments of Led Zeppelin and put it all together and just say, like, these are, like you say, Pete, you know, if you think this is the definitive version of Since I've Been Loving You, go find all that really definitive stuff when they were absolutely on fire. Because everybody says of Led Zeppelin, you know, Jimmy Page in particular, when they were on, they were untouchable, and when they were lousy, they were lousy. And they were lousy quite often. They were sloppy quite often. But when they were on, they were incredible. So just find all that stuff and give us those 30 magical moments all at once.
Yeah, I mean, there's if you talk to a lot of like Zeppelin fanatics, especially those who follow like and collect the bootlegs, there are probably a handful of Zeppelin bootlegs from the early '70s that are arguably way better performances than anything you're going to hear on "Song Remains the Same" or "How the West Was Won" or even the BBC live album. But because they're bootlegs and they kind of sound like shit, it's like they're never going to get officially released. But that was, 69, 70, and 71 was probably arguably the band at their peak in a live environment.
Certainly
For
Robert.
all the drugs and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Certainly Robert, because Robert starts slowly, his range starts tightening on him. But yeah, when he was young, he was untouchable.
Yeah, exactly. All right, my choice here, I'm going to go with Eagles Live, which basically, kind of threw this out there after the band, released The Long Run and band implodes. Like, whoop, we got a live album. But I remember buying this off, from the store when the day it came out, back when I was however old I was here, 14 years old, whatever, and thinking what a disappointment, because it's got like, it really wasn't representative of the band at the time. It's got like recordings from all throughout their career, which really wasn't marketed as such. So, and I felt kind of opposite of what we've been talking about a lot here. I felt like all of these versions were so safe and almost identical to the studio versions. So to me, it was kind of like, why did I buy this? Because, Hotel California sounded exactly like the studio version. Heartache Tonight, I Can't Tell You Why, The Long Run sounded exactly like the studio version. And they threw in a bunch of the more country stuff from the early albums with earlier band lineups. And I was like, and then you got, Life in the Fast Lane, which is okay. All Night Long, right, which is Joe Walsh doing his thing. But the rest of it just like kind of boring. And I listen to it to this day and I'm like, I understand why I didn't dig this back in the day. To me, it just seemed like a really safe, laid back, boring live album. They could have picked some better performances, I thought. The production is okay. I don't know. It just didn't do a hell of a lot for me then. And even now I'm kind of like, it's all right, but could have been a lot better, as a way to kind of, because at the time they were obviously broken up, as a way to like make a lot of money, release a great live album. I'm sure they had tons of recordings. They just kind of threw this together. And, the cover is like, whatever, so that's my last pick for today.
Well, aren't they literally considered out there in the world and in pop culture, the worst live band of all time? I mean, I
only saw them once, so I can say they were
that
very
a lot,
good.
Right?
Yeah.
I hear that. Like people say that this is a band that really has no purpose doing anything live. There's no point to it, right? So
yeah, I don't know. I only caught them once, and I caught them real late. Like I only just saw them 6 or 7 years ago, right before Glenn Frey passed away. And I thought they were really good. But again, maybe it was more because I had waited so many years to go see them. Because quite frankly, I didn't want to spend like $500 on a ticket to go see the Eagles. Because come on. But and that could be, Martin. That could be. I just know as a live album from a classic band, it's not very good. It's not very good.
And it's funny you mentioned paying $500 for a ticket, Pete, because a friend of mine asked me just on Saturday, going, hey, Chris, when did concert tickets, and this is a whole nother rant, but when did concert tickets get so, when was the jump? And I said, well, everybody points to the Eagles.
That's right.
When Hell Freezes Over tour in '94, when they did that big stadium tour, and the prices were just from the get-go astronomical. And every other band was like, oh, well, we're going to do the same. And things were never the same since.
Chris, I paid over $100 for a lawn ticket at Bethel Woods to see the Eagles.
Wow.
What does that tell you right there, right? When most bands charge like $40.
Right. And, sometimes you can get in for $20.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's underscore this. The worst live band of all time was the band that thought that they should charge an astronomical amount for tickets for the very first time. Way to go, guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Fleetwood Mac does that too. Fleetwood Mac charges a lot. You gotta pay a pretty penny to go see a Fleetwood Mac show. What is it about these California bands? Well, Fleetwood Mac is a California British band, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. All right, well, there you have it. 30 minutes of some disappointing albums in the eyes of Pardo, Popoff, and Alo. So curious to see in the comments which live albums you guys were disappointed in for whatever the reason. I know we're going to get a lot of people who are going to absolutely love these choices that we gave, but
for sure.
It's all in the everybody hears these albums differently. So, it's the way it is. So make sure everybody visits us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. So if you want to see this combo again, let us know. We're happy to do it. We'll come up with another little rant concept. And so for Martin Popoff and Chris Alo, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks, guys, for joining, and we'll see you real soon. Take care.